This happened back in 2015 during a hike I took in Arizona. The trail went through a short bit of desert, then opened up to a medium-sized mountain that led to a canyon-like walkthrough at the top. Going for 8 to 10 hour hikes alone was my way of clearing my mind and getting away from the stress of everyday life. Anyways, the trail didn't seem to be well known, as there wasn't any parking nearby and the trailhead was really hard to find. It was hidden behind a line of thick bushes, and the path was faint and faded. I never specifically looked for low-traffic trails, but I didn't like running into people all the time on high-traffic trails either, so I was fine with the path being unknown. As I continued down the trail, the trees began to look more and more dry until most of them seemed dead. Many had fallen over the trail or had multiple thick branches lying across it. The trail definitely hadn't been taken care of in the past few years. Making my way further down, the path began to lead through layers of thick, overgrown bushes. The path was distinct enough to know that I was still on it, so I kept going. That's when I heard a very distinct sound. A whistle coming from up the mountain. It was faint, but I could hear the whistling hold a few notes before it stopped. I will admit, it was creepy and made me pretty uncomfortable, but I just figured someone else was on the trail. In that moment, that was the only thing that made sense. Another 20 minutes went by, and again I heard the same melodic whistle, but this time much closer and louder. I was a little more creeped out this time, but I wasn't about to leave the trail just because of some guy whistling nearby. I went up about a quarter mile further, keeping my pocket knife in my hand just in case. A tree had fallen right on the path, and the thorny branches made it difficult to climb over, so I had to walk around it. I turned to the right and took a couple of steps before noticing a small valley, likely where a river used to flow. However, right in the middle was a small den made of large sticks. From the complexity of it, I knew it had to be man-made. I started putting the whistling and the den together, figuring someone might actually be living here. I got a bad feeling about the whole thing and decided I needed to go right away. But just as I turned to leave the valley, that same whistle came from right behind me. I felt my heart stop out of fear as I quickly turned to face the den. To my surprise, there was a goat standing just behind the valley, exactly where I had heard the whistle from. Its eyes felt like they were staring into me as it stood there motionless. I also couldn't help but notice how large it was compared to others I'd seen around the area. I was really freaking out in my head at this point and couldn't even comprehend the whole situation. After a few seconds, I managed to control myself and began walking back slowly, still facing it. But as I took one step back, it opened its mouth slightly and unnaturally, then let out the same whistle I'd heard too many times already. My fear took hold, and I sprinted down the mountain, falling multiple times over trees and rocks. I heard the whistle one more time, softly echoing down the mountain as I made it to the exit of the trail. I'd never told anyone about my encounter, as I thought nobody would ever believe me and I'd only sound like a coward. But I hadn't heard about skinwalkers until recently, and as soon as I dug deeper into them, I realized that might be the only possible explanation for what I saw.